Hey friends, it's Avi from JustWriteMusic.com. Today I want to talk about a way of looking at music that gives us some really incredible options. Before we get started, however, I want to tell you about my free guide, 7 Ways to Write a More Effective Melody. It's got some great tools in there that are versatile and that you can use on any melody in any genre. Head to JustWriteMusic.com. There is a link down in the description. So in the title, I gave you guys a hint, and that hint was to think objectively. I'm gotta confess that I'm being a little bit sneaky there. I don't mean objectively necessarily in the way that you think I might mean it. Today, when we talk about objective thinking, we're talking about going into the nitty-gritty details of our music and finding the objects that make the piece sound like itself. That brings me to my first point. Let's define an object. What is an object? An object is essentially any purposefully repeated or developed part of a piece of music. Some of the time, these are aspects of music that will go completely unnoticed by average listeners, except by those with a critical ear. To the average listener, this can actually be a hallmark of proficient songwriting or music creation. The song sounds like itself. But what exactly do we mean by that? How does a song sound like itself? Essentially, the song is referencing itself. Think about how a verse melody is the same in any given song. You go from one verse to the next verse, you'll have a chorus in there. You have an A section, a B section, you go back to your A section. It's repetition that creates the object as something that is important or meaningful in the piece of music. To quote Adam Neely, or whomever he's quoting, repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Now that we know what an object is, we have to learn how to use one effectively in our songwriting and music composition, which brings me to my next point. While repetition does in fact legitimize, if the same thing repeated over and over again can become fatiguing, even if it's just only slightly different, it can still become fatiguing to the average listener, and this is when people tend to just, turn off and change the song. However, by doing more than just a little bit of variation, we can start to develop the object, and this is where things can really start to come to life in our music. Now, a really great example of using objects to elevate a piece of music is the guitar solo. A very well-written guitar solo will usually call back to other aspects or other melodies of the piece of music. A good example of this is Bat Country by Avenged Sevenfold. The beginning of the Bat Country solo starts by repeating the verse riff exactly, the vocal melody of the verse riff exactly. Now, first of all, we're getting this in another instrument, so it sounds familiar, but the texture and the timbre is different, and the effects are different. It's a different experience for us, even though it's the same melody. But we don't stop there. Synyster Gates, the lead guitarist of Avenged Sevenfold, he goes further. On the next 2 iterations, he changes the last note, going higher, creating this ascending line at the end of each iteration of the verse melody. Then, however, the melody is liquidated, which means we're just totally getting rid of it. Over the course of the solo, we just kind of get faster, and by the very end of it, we're devolving into these chromatic sextuplets that are just ascending and driving us to a tonic on the very, very end. This gives us a sense of direction, like the sense that we've been on a journey, even in just this small part of the song. These aspects of the guitar solo are referencing the other aspects of the song, which make it feel like it belongs. It gives it a sense of contiguity. Now, in terms of objectives, we have primary objectives and secondary objectives. The primary objective was the verse melody that's being repeated. This is aspects of the song that we've heard previously that are now being repeated in another instrument. That's a really, really sweet move. It's a fantastic move to make something sound like itself because you are referencing itself. You're using and recycling the same material, but in a different way. The secondary objects in this example were the articulations that are used in the solo. The melody has this very glissando stylistic articulation to it that is being translated onto the guitar as these bends. These articulations are part of the object. It's not just the music itself, it's how the music is played on the instrument, what instrument it's being played, everything is getting involved here. Now, to finish things up here, I want to quote my teacher who has told me this exact statement on numerous occasions. Everything is an object. I'm going to say that one more time. Everything is an object. This can be a little bit overwhelming at first. I was certainly kind of overwhelmed when I first heard it, but as I processed it, it kind of made my creativity explode a little bit because everything is an object. You can make anything out of anything. It's like turning lead into gold in a way. There's some alchemy here. Anything, any little thing can be turned into a musical statement. This means that material that is maybe secondary or tertiary to your song or your piece or whatever you're writing, you can then elevate that later in the song and make that primary thematic material. You can even turn it into this really cool little Easter egg that, you're just kind of like waiting for people to find. Now, this is usually what I tend to do and why this is so powerful for me. When I'm hitting a wall or a barrier in a piece, I'll actually go back and look at what I've written and see if there's any secondary or tertiary material that I've used that I can elevate and create into a new section. What's really cool about this is that it starts to create the sense of foreshadowing in the piece, right? When you think about it in terms of a narrative. Taking this kind of storytelling standpoint with your music, looking at it as a narrative, looking at your songs as a narrative, it allows us to kind of think a little bit more big picture on what the song is going to be. It's important to take these nitty-gritty details, go into and zoom in, and then zoom all the way out. Get all the perspectives of your music that you can, because this is what's going to give you so much insight into what can be done with a composition. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, a melody is worth 1,000 notes? I don't know. There's something there. Let me know in the comments. What is the phrase I'm trying to say? There's an analogy here that I'm trying to make and I am failing at it. Please help me down in the comment section below. Regardless, as soon as I turn on my objective mind while in a writing session, I find that more often than not, I am pretty close, just a step or two away to finding some new material that I can expand and create into a whole new section or use in a really cool way. Now that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for being here and for watching this video. What do you think about objective thinking in music? Do you think there's something to this, or do you think I'm crazy? Let me know down in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe for more videos. There's a lot more coming. And if you're really into it, hit that bell to be notified when a new video is here. Remember to check out my free guide, 7 Ways to Write a More Effective Melody. You can head to justwritemusic.com. There's a link in the description. I'm Avi from Just Write Music. I'll see you next time.